Hey there, I'm Joshua Johnson. It's great to be with you on this Friday, May 27th. And tonight, we're talking about your ideas for common sense gun laws. You flooded us with calls and emails. Thank you so much for that. Our experts will dig into your suggestions next. What would it take to turn your ideas into laws? Some of those ideas could have a big opponent, the NRA. Its annual convention is underway in Houston. We'll check in on the event inside and the protests outside. Also tonight, Vladimir Putin may get what he wants in eastern Ukraine. We're live in Kyiv with the latest. And we kick off Memorial Day weekend on the beach. First to Puerto Rico with the fight to keep its coastline open to the public. Then to the global shortage of sand. Yes, the world's beaches are running out of sand. We'll explain where it's going and meet a recycling company that's trying to put it back. Memorial Day weekend has plenty of big events, including one that could shape the debate over gun safety. The NRA is holding its annual meeting in Houston. The group's annual leadership forum comes 3 days after the deadly mass shooting in Uvalde, Texas. Tens of thousands of NRA members are attending the event after 2 years of COVID cancellations. Today's headliner, former President Trump. He called for more armed security at schools and for Congress to redirect unspent COVID funding to campus security.
This is not a matter of money. This is a matter of will. If the United States has $40 billion to send to Ukraine, we should be able to do whatever it takes to keep our children safe at home. That's true. We spent trillions in Iraq. Trillions in Afghanistan. We got nothing. Before we nation build the rest of the world, we should be building safe schools for our own children in our own nation, right?
Meanwhile, thousands of protesters are gathered across from the convention center. Here's what some of them told NBC's Shaquille Brewster.
This mass shooting in Uvalde just touched us off, and we're so furious about it.
Things need to change. The NRA is the largest contributor to financial campaigns, and the only thing easier to buy than an AR-15 is a GOP politician.
We have to keep trying. We can't just blow it off and say, oh, well, you know. Whatever I can do, I'll do it.
Shaq joins us now from the George R. Brown Convention Center in downtown Houston. Shaq, how are things going out there tonight?
Oh, things are calm. This is pretty much it at this point. You have a few dozen protesters, demonstrators right outside the convention hall. Most of the attendees who were at the convention hall have already left after the speeches from former President Trump, from Senator Ted Cruz. So you have some exchanges still happening right now. But this is a much different scene than what we saw earlier today, where you had thousands of protesters outside in front of the convention hall. The NRA convention, which is right on the other side of the street. I'll just let you take a look at it. That's expected to draw somewhere near 50,000 people over the course of the weekend. So there was definitely a potential for clashes. There was definitely a lot of tension, but no physical altercations. It was a lot of conversations, a lot of chanting, and all calm right now here in front of the convention center.
Good. That is good to hear that there haven't been any incidents outside. Hopefully it stays that way this weekend. Let's talk about what some of the folks inside the convention are saying. Here are two cuts from two people who are, one who's attending the convention and one who is an exhibitor inside the convention hall. Watch.
I think they're just using the shooting, the horrible tragedy that our whole country is mourning over, as a scapegoat to try to get a gun agenda going on. And it's exactly what the NRA wants to do. They have a Protect Schools program, and if there were somebody in that school that was trained, that would not have gone on as long as it did.
It's always they blame the guys with guns. They blame the gun itself. They blame the fact that they exist, that nobody needs an assault rifle, nobody needs 30 rounds. They blame all of those, but it's never the individual. It never falls back on the individual.
So, Shaq, I'm not sure what we can expect in terms of minds being opened and or changed this weekend, but at least from those two folks, you hear a lot of the same kind of arguments about how school shootings are being used as sort of a scapegoat to come after NRA supporters.
Yeah. Yeah, and we definitely heard more of that. I'll tell you, earlier during the protest, it was the heat of the protest, I was down the street, and a lady who was on the other side of the fence here, she came over and she just said, hey, I know you were talking to other people. I know you've been talking to both sides. Is it getting through to the other side how we're feeling? And I told her, not necessarily. There is some nuance there. You have people who are going into the convention hall who say they value their Second Amendment and say there are laws they're willing to tinker with. Maybe they should raise the age for assault weapons, they say. Maybe there are some more things you can do with background checks, for example. The concern is, and you heard this from President Trump, former President Trump, when he was on stage, the concern that you hear from so many people is that that will just be the first step. First they'll raise the age on this. First they'll talk about limiting guns, and then all guns will get taken away. Like, that is the tone that you hear, and that is why there's that barrier there, that even though there are majority of Americans, polls show this, that support universal background checks, that support an assault weapons ban, which is the main demand for many of the protesters, it's that rhetoric and the fear thrown out there that you're hearing from many of the speakers that leads to that concern and leads to the gap between the two sides not being able to be bridged.
Yeah, the slippery slope argument, which, of course, it's worth noting that it's hard to take all of the guns from people who have guns. Thank you, Shaq. That's NBC Shaquille Brewster, starting us off outside the Convention Center in downtown Houston. Now, the power of the NRA has many people doubting that meaningful gun safety legislation can survive. But if it did, what should it focus on? We asked for your ideas, and you did not disappoint. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts. One idea came up a lot: bringing back the assault weapons ban. History, it seems, has a cruel sense of symmetry. That became law after other mass shootings, including one at an elementary school. It happened on January 17th, 1989, on a playground at Cleveland Elementary School in Stockton, California. A man killed 5 children and injured dozens of others with a semi-automatic rifle before killing himself. California Senator Dianne Feinstein sponsored the ban in her second year on the job. She has said that her tipping point came a few years later. In 1993, a man killed 8 people and injured 6 others at a San Francisco law firm, again with a semi-automatic weapon. Senator Feinstein pushed for the bill alongside then-Senator Joe Biden. At the time, he was the chair of the Judiciary Committee. The 1994 assault weapons ban targeted assault weapons and high-capacity magazines. President Clinton said then what many gun safety advocates are saying now.
The 19 assault weapons banned by this proposal are deadly, dangerous weapons. They were designed for one purpose only: to kill people. And as long as violent criminals have easy access to them, they will continue to be used to kill people. We as a nation are determined to turn that around.
So why is the ban gone? Because it was not built to last. It came with a sunset provision set to expire after 10 years unless Congress renewed it. But when 2004 came around, some Democrats tried to, with no luck. Renewal came up again in 2012 after another elementary school shooting, Sandy Hook in Newtown, Connecticut. That attack killed 26 people, 20 of whom were children. On that day, President Obama pleaded for the nation to do something.
As a country, we have been through this too many times. Whether it's an elementary school in Newton, or a shopping mall in Oregon, or a temple in Wisconsin, or a movie theater in Aurora, or a street corner in Chicago, these neighborhoods are our neighborhoods, and these children are our children. And we're going to have to come together and take meaningful action to prevent more tragedies like this, regardless of the politics.
And now, will this time be different? A number of mayors, governors, faith leaders, and nonprofits are hoping so. They're all calling for new gun safety laws. And that is why we asked for your one best idea on a common sense law. So do me a favor. Set your cynicism aside just for a moment. Let us assume Let us hope that something can be done. But what should it be? Here are what Mike, Kayla, and John each left in our inbox.
Guns are fun. Revolvers are fun, and I enjoy my revolver. My wife and I go out and shoot it at the range, and it's a nice little home protection device. However, assault rifles serve no home protection means other than just assaulting people. The name alone gives it away, assault.
You don't kill a deer with an AR. In Montana, a lot of people need their rifles because a lot of people get their food from harvesting their own animals.
I think the responsible thing to do would be to have a federal ban on any military-grade weaponry, including body armor, tactical, AR-15 rifles, machine guns, things that are designed for combat specifically.
Thank you for all those comments. We received dozens of suggestions from across America, Canada, and even New Zealand, where unfortunately our friends in Christchurch know about gun violence all too well. We heard from people who are gun owners. We heard from people who've never bought a firearm. We heard from Democrats. We heard from Republicans. This was exactly what we were hoping for. So let's put your ideas to the test with our experts, starting with MSNBC political analyst Jonathan Alter, who's joining us now to go through some of your suggestions. And Jonathan, let's start with that idea of a ban on assault weapons. I mean, if you just look at the data, it's pretty clear that deaths declined between the decade before the ban and the decade during it. The decline is kind of modest, but after the ban, deaths shoot way up. Like, the data seem to be there. What would it take to have a federal ban on assault weapons, anything like what we had in the 90s and the 2000s?
Well, Joshua, it would take two things. Most importantly, it would take a willingness to make an exception to the Senate filibuster rules in order to get this through with 51 votes. Maybe they could get a couple of Republicans, but under current Senate rules, it takes 60 votes to move this legislation. And that means that you have to have 10 Republicans. And right now, that is not likely. So even though, as President Biden pointed out, mass shootings went up, they tripled after the assault weapons ban expired in 2004. Nonetheless, there are a lot of members of the Republican Party, and unfortunately, this has become a partisan thing. It didn't used to be. Used to be there were people on both sides in both parties. Now it's mostly a partisan thing. And we have to convince our elected representatives, especially those who are Republicans, to have a change of heart on this issue if there's going to be any progress on that.
Let me get to a few more comments that we got on assault weapons. Brian in Oregon emailed that he grew up in a gun culture. Brian writes, in the right circumstance, a gun is a useful tool, but an assault weapons ban is the most effective and practical way to end this era of multiple mass shootings. If you claim you need an AR-15 to hunt, then you should learn to aim. Anna emailed, I'm personally okay with people owning military-style weapons. However, a major problem is the culture of the gun bros in general. They think that owning these weapons makes you a warrior, and it doesn't. Brian, Anna, thank you for your thoughts. And Jonathan, I wonder with Anna's comment, I wonder if that's part of the issue, is that there is a huge market for weapons like these, and then also the way that these types of weapons are built and modifiable and designable. I mean, you can get an assault-style rifle in pink now if you want it. There is a company that sells weapons like this that are literally sized for a child, for parents to teach their children to shoot young. So the guns are not the same now. And I wonder if that changes the way the legislation would be written. Like the ban from '94 might need so much modification it would be useless now.
That's right. It wouldn't be the same. President Clinton banned 19 different types of assault weapons. There are now dozens, as you say. And we also have the 3D, we have ghost guns. But there are things that can be done in that area that relate to bump stocks. The magazines can also be regulated. and this is something that needs more thought and debate, because even if you can't, very easily limit the guns themselves, you can have, what the late Senator Daniel Patrick Moynihan supported, which was ammunition control. Think of all of the rounds that the shooter had in Uvalde. And the reason there were so many deaths, part of it was that he had so many rounds with him. So you could start to address that. But I want to say one thing that relates to this that needs to come out of this latest mass shooting. The core of the argument that the NRA has been making for all of these years can be summarized as the only way to deal with a bad guy with a gun is with a good guy with a gun. This disproved that core argument. That argument is now dead because the authorities, they were trained. The authorities in Uvalde would not confront this killer because he outgunned them. So this is critical to understand, that this idea that if we, improve security by putting armed guards, at the entrances to schools, that's somehow going to solve this problem. It's not, because they're not going to be armed with AR-15s. We're not going to, or we're going to turn our schools into armed camps, battle zones, war zones. We certainly don't want to do that.
Well, and that was one of the things that came out with the timeline, which we'll get into in just a minute. We'll talk more in just a little bit about some of what we've learned in terms of the timeline of how the officers move. By the way, for those of you whose ears perked up when I said that they make a weapon like this that's sized for kids, I just looked it up. It's called the JR-15. It's designed to be 20% smaller than its original version and weigh just 2.3 pounds. It got a tremendous amount of criticism when it was introduced this year. Quite a few people focused on the idea of training for people who want to own weapons like this. Here is what Brian and Raymond had to say.
We're required to have a license to drive. We have required to have licenses for our cars and our airplanes. Even to go fishing, we have to have a license. It's just common sense to have a license.
I always taught my kids, once you pull a trigger, you can't call the bullet back. So it is what it is. People ought to be taught how to use firearms correctly and responsible, and maybe we wouldn't have all these incidents.
Thank you both very much for sharing your thoughts with us. I wonder, Jonathan, with regard to that feels, I can hear the counter argument, which is, first, you're going to ask us to license it and then require training, and that is the first step on the slippery slope toward beginning to confiscate weapons. Like if you have a rule in the training that says that if you test a certain way or if that raises red flags, we can come into your home and take your weapons away.
Well, that's the argument they've been using for the last 40 years. And at a certain point, I think people who want something to change have to stop worrying about what the other side's argument is and just beat them. This requires political organizing. So basically, what's happened is that the NRA crowd has felt more strongly about this, and their constituents have felt more strongly about it. And a lot of them are single issue voters. And so what we need are people who are, in some cases, single issue voters on the other side. If you're not for common sense gun safety legislation, I'm not voting for you, no matter how good a job you may have done on other issues. And that's what people need to start thinking about. I think Brian was exactly right. Why do we require driver's ed and a license to drive a car, but not to have a gun? You go to if you want to legally buy a gun, and the Second Amendment allows for that, do what you need to do when you want a driver's license. It's common sense. And people need to start pushing for that kind of legislation. Instead, in some states, we've been moving in the opposite direction, and they've been saying you don't even need a permit for a gun anymore in Texas.
Right. Texas actually eliminated some of its permitting and licensing requirements back in September, less than a year before the shooting in Uvalde happened. Let me get to one more quick comment before we pause. Tina emailed, I'm a firm believer in the Second Amendment. I don't believe in ARs. I suggest that for anyone that wants to own an AR, they must attend a weekly class for 4 weeks showing unedited pictures of victims from places such as Uvalde. That would definitely send a very strong signal, Tina. Thank you very much. We are speaking to MSNBC political analyst Jonathan Alter about your ideas for common sense gun laws. We'll get some more in just a moment. Jonathan, sit tight. But first, we will have the latest from Uvalde with more details on why the police waited to attack the gunman. Texas's governor says those revelations left him, in his words, livid. We're glad you're with us for Now Tonight from NBC News. Why did police in Texas respond to the shooting in Uvalde the way they did? Today, the state's Department of Public Safety tried to clear things up further, but that raised even more questions, and it confirmed some of the public's worst fears. DPS Chief Stephen McCraw revealed that officers waited more than an hour before entering a classroom where students were. 19 officers from various agencies were waiting in the hallway. To hear him tell it, that decision seems inexcusable.
For the benefit of hindsight, where I'm sitting now, of course it was not the right decision. It was the wrong decision, period. There's no excuse for that. But again, I wasn't there, but I'm just telling you, from what we know, that we believe there should have been an entry at that as soon as you can. Hey, when there's an active shooter, the rules change. It's no longer, okay, it's no longer a barricaded subject. You don't have time. You don't worry about outer perimeters.
NBC's Yasmin Vasugian is live in Uvalde, Texas with more. Yasmin, elaborate a little bit more on the department's failure to act, with the understanding that the investigation is still continuing and we don't quite know why they made that decision. But it seemed like today everyone was pretty unequivocal that that was just the wrong thing to do.
It was the wrong thing to do, and it's obvious from the way in which they've disseminated the information and communicated it to the press, to the family as well, to the families of the people that were lost or the babies that were lost inside that school. There has been misleading information after misleading information for the last couple of days. And then finally today, it seemed like we got a TikTok, but then again, you talk about the timeline, right? An hour and 20 minutes. He was inside that school, and for an hour and 20 minutes, he was alive inside that school, inside two of those classrooms, room 111 and room 112. An hour and 20 minutes. The first 911 call came in at 11:30 saying there was a crash outside the school, shots were being fired, there was a man with a gun. He fired at individuals who had approached the crash site from a funeral home nearby. They ran back to the funeral home after they were fired upon, and a 911 call was placed. That was at 11:30, Joshua. An hour and 20 minutes later, he was neutralized. The first time we heard a 911 call, 12:03 from inside the school, from a student inside room 112, whispering, "There's an active shooter on the scene. There's an active shooter in my classroom." Again, another 911 call after that, 12:21, 12:10, 12:11, 12:21, I believe as well. 12:19, another 911 call coming from room 111. Room 111, I spoke to the brother of a little boy named Xavier. Xavier was 10 years old. He lost his life inside room 111. And you have families wondering if, in fact, the police had acted, if, in fact, they had gone in sooner, would Xavier be alive today? Because he was in room 111 when there was a 911 call being made from inside that classroom saying people were still alive. His girlfriend, Annabelle, beside him. Would she still be alive today as well? An hour and 20 minutes. I cannot reiterate this enough. And then we talk about the breakdown when it comes to the police outside the building. There was an arrival of BORTEC between 12 and 12:15. Also DHS agents arriving between 12 and 12:15. The DHS agents were told to remove children from the school through the windows to get them from safety. BORTEC was told to stand down. This is a tactical team. These guys were ready, willing, and able to get inside that school, per Julie Ainsley's reporting. It took 30 minutes until BORTEC said we are overriding what we were being told by the local police force, and we were going inside to neutralize the shooter, when in fact that's exactly what they did at around 12:15. So we're talking an hour, and I'm going to say it again, an hour and 20 minutes in which this individual was inside that school till he was neutralized, till he was taken down. And you had people, federal agents, outside this school for 30 plus minutes being told to stand down, parents begging to get inside so they can rescue their children, begging so that they could go in at least and rescue their children, and the police officers weren't doing it. And I think that no matter what comes from this investigation moving forward, Joshua, one of the things that I've been hearing over and over again from folks in this community is they're not surprised by the breakdown from the police force here. So I think we're going to have to look into that further along in this story, the disconnect between the community and their police force. And because there has been so much misleading information up until now, whatever comes next, whether they are forthcoming or not, whether they are truthful or not with the TikTok of what took place and the breakdown, they have lost the trust, it seems, of this community, because those lives were lost of those little babies inside that school when the police could have acted, and they did not.
Thank you, Yasmin. That's NBC's Yasmin Vasugian. She will be in Uvalde, Texas this weekend. You can catch her reporting from 2 to 4 p.m. Eastern this weekend on MSNBC. Thanks, Yasmin. Let's keep going now with your ideas for common sense gun laws. Back with us is MSNBC political analyst Jonathan Alter. And joining us now on the line is NBC News law enforcement analyst Carmen Best. She is the former police chief in Seattle, Washington. Chief Best, let me start with you, just following what we heard from Yasmin very briefly. Before we get into more ideas, I'd love your sense of what we're learning about this law enforcement response. I don't think this came up that much in terms of people's ideas, but we're pretty clear, I think, in a post-Columbine world that if there's an active shooter that's shooting, officers are trained to run toward the danger rather than to kind of fall back to a safe spot. What do you make of the response?
Well, you're right about that. Since Columbine, the training has been that officers move to the threat, immediately try to take the threat down. They can provide a distraction for the subject or suspects involved. And so I'm rather perplexed. I think there'll be a lot of investigation and inquiry as to what happened here, where the breakdown in training or communication was in this incident. But it's very sad for all of us, because it appears that because of that, the potential to save lives may have been diminished.
Yeah, I hear that. And there are, I heard you mention like making some kind of a distraction, that there are options besides just kind of running headlong towards danger. With the understanding, that's a lot to ask a law enforcement officer to do, granted, but there are options for the ways to respond to that. Can I back up for a second, Chief Best, and ask you about this idea of an assault weapons ban? I have law enforcement in my family who is trained to use assault-style rifles and trains other officers as well. And my understanding from talking to him and other law enforcement officers is that the proliferation of weapons like this makes their jobs harder, because it makes it harder to tell who the good guy with the gun is, because there are more guns around. What's your perspective from someone in law enforcement about the impact that an assault weapons ban may or may not have if we had one?
Well, absolutely. Listen, I was a police chief. It was always a concern of mine that, an officer might be outgunned in the field. Most officers have on their person some sort of sidearm, pepper spray, and, potentially a taser, which is not a fair match to someone carrying an assault rifle. So that is why many officers were trying to, many departments were trying to add assault rifles to all of their vehicles. But that's not always possible at the current time. So for me, obviously, it would be great if we didn't have, proliferation of assault weapons. I don't know if the country is ready to go there yet, but at least if we do have them, to make sure that there's some sort of stringent check so that we can make sure that we don't get them in the hands of the wrong people.
I want to skip ahead to some comments from viewers about mental health. We got a couple of comments about dealing with mental health, and this is something that's come up among the NRA. Former President Trump brought this up during his speech. Texas Governor Greg Abbott brought it up as well. And some of you mentioned mental health in a few different contexts. Here is what Orion left in our inbox. Listen.
I believe that it should be down to a case-by-case basis. I believe they should have some type of psychiatric evaluation, some type of mental evaluation on the person that's applying to possess a firearm.
Orion, thank you for sharing your thoughts with us. Also, Anna emailed, I am a person with a mental illness. I get upset when there are these mass shootings and it is immediately blamed on the mental health status of the shooter. When this happens, more stigma is placed on those of us everyday people who live with mental illness. Anna, thank you for saying that. As someone who has struggled with anxiety and depression for years and still does, I appreciate you trying to draw a Venn diagram between mental illness, mental health, and killing a group of children, that there may be an overlap, but it's not direct. Jonathan Alter, what about that, the mental health piece of this?
I think Anna makes a great point, and we do need to be very careful not to stigmatize those who are suffering from mental illness. At the same time, you can hold in your mind at the same time that background checks, eliminating the gun show loophole so that background checks apply to guns that are purchased, out of the back of a SUV at a gun show, are also subjected to background checks so that you can see whether there is mental illness in the background of the person who is applying for the gun. It may be that so-called red flag laws, which we now have in 19 states, become part of a compromise bill that a bipartisan group is talking about right now. Everybody assumes the politicians are doing nothing, and they may end up doing nothing. But Senator Chris Murphy is leading a bipartisan group right now. They're going to be talking during the recess about making some incremental changes. And one of them is likely to be one of the ones that's proposed. I don't know whether they'll have the votes for it, but they might, is likely to be to have a federal statute with red flags. And that would be a very important thing so that school authorities or other authorities could report that somebody was possibly dangerous who had bought a weapon, and the police could go and do a procedure that would not create a criminal record, take that weapon away from the mentally ill person.
Chief Best, very briefly, I want to get to one more voicemail from a viewer named John, who is one of our viewers who suggested regulating some of the costs around owning a gun. Here's what John had to say.
I suggest that you raise the price of ammo, of bullets. Make each bullet $5,000 or $1,000. Good guns are no good without ammo.
Now, John, I hear the idea. I just want to be clear. You took that from Chris Rock. I remember that from his comedy special where he said that all bullets should cost $5,000. Where he's like, man, I'm going to kill you if I could afford it. I'm going to get a job and put some bullets on layaway. So I've heard that idea before, John. But, Chief Best, before we go, are there other peripheral ways to kind of create defensible barriers between guns and gun owners, briefly, before we go?
Well, yeah, they're trying to limit the number of high-capacity magazines that are available to people. And so that even the amount of ammo that can be purchased at a single time, or if there's a way to track, I think that'd be very difficult to do. But certainly, it doesn't matter how much ammo you have if your magazine can only hold a certain amount of rounds at a time. That would limit the ability to, cause some of the carnage that we've seen, proliferate at these shootings.
MSNBC political analyst Jonathan Alter and NBC News law enforcement analyst Carmen Best, formerly the police chief in Seattle. This was a fantastic exercise. I really appreciate the two of you helping us think through this. And thanks to everybody who sent their ideas in. We really, really appreciate it. Thank you both very much. Coming up, the latest from Ukraine. Russia is stepping up its assault on the Donbas region. We're live in Kyiv next. Russia's Plan B in Ukraine seems to be making progress. It could not take Kyiv directly, but it's making significant advances in the east, near the Russian border. Heavy shelling and bombing have continued there. Russian forces have also captured a number of villages in the Donbas region, specifically around the city of Severodonetsk. That's just above Luhansk and Donetsk. It's been attacked heavily in the last few days. Severodonetsk is one of two cities in the area that remain under Ukrainian control. Artillery strikes also hit Ukraine's second largest city, Kharkiv, in northeastern Ukraine. It had enjoyed a week of respite from attacks. Today, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky repeated his call for Russian President Vladimir Putin to meet with him. Zelensky admitted that Ukrainians do not have a strong desire to negotiate. Still, it may be the only way to get their lives back to normal. NBC's Cal Perry joins us now from Kyiv. And Cal, what more do we know about the situation in eastern Ukraine?
Well, we know that the Russians are now making advances. This is a place where the invasion was stalled, really for the last 2 to 3 months. The Russians have called it Phase 2. They said Phase 2 would be a concentration in the Donbass. And one of the things that seems to be aiding their advancement, and again, it's a very slow advancement, but one of the things that's aiding that advancement is they've pivoted the soldiers that they were using in the invasion of Kyiv, for example, and in places like Mariupol, and they've moved those resources, they've moved those soldiers into the east. And it seems like that has not only bolstered the force, but has given them the ability to start moving again. We talked about these positions being entrenched, these positions being static, but now the Russians are moving. Again, it is very slow progress. It is very brutal. We're hearing from Ukrainian officials and Western officials that they are destroying the villages that they come across as they move through them, that the shelling is almost 24 hours a day with no regard to civilian areas. But that is, of course, in keeping with what we have seen around the country, especially in places like Mariupol, as the Russians have continued to sort of not only assault these places on the ground, Joshua, but to shell them and to use sort of consistent artillery and tank shelling, again, on city centers to try to get the population to just leave, Joshua.
So then what's the next step in this strategy? Clearly, they're not looking to occupy these cities if they're just kind of flattening them. Is the idea to make kind of a curtain in the east and then push all the way to Kyiv? Or like, what would be the next step in this for Russia?
Well, when you listen to Ukrainian officials, they will tell you that Russia still has its sights set on the entire country, of Ukraine, and on the capital here in Kyiv. When you look at this map, you can see how Russian forces have been pushed back, how they were pushed back from Kyiv, back towards Belarus, how they were pushed in the east, back towards the Russian border, how in Kharkiv, for example, which is east of where I am in Kyiv, Russian troops were pushed back. The issue now is, of course, they are on the offensive again. And it's not clear sort of the momentum that they will carry with them from this eastern offensive. You have, again, the calls for more weapons to be flooded to the eastern part of the country by Ukrainian officials. They're now talking specifically about long-range rockets that they can use to not only keep Russian forces back, but to carry out attacks on the other side of the border, to start shelling Russian positions in Russia, which Ukrainian officials are telling Western officials is key to any kind of defense of the country. So your question, I think, is the appropriate one, which is, what is the greater goal here? Does Russia have its sights set on the entire country? Or, as was the sort of case, and we thought Western officials when they told us at the beginning of this war that it would largely be in the east, is that now the plan? Is it, quote, Phase 2, as Russia puts it, to focus on the Donbass, to take that area, to just try to control that area, or will they use it as a springboard for the rest of the country? Certainly, Ukrainian officials say it will be the rest of the country. I think Western officials are a little bit more divided on what they believe Russia's intent here is.
And real fast, Cal, very briefly, any response to President Zelensky's call for Putin to meet with him and negotiate?
Not a meaningful one, and we heard President Zelensky say that it would be difficult, but it really is the only way to bring closure to this war. I think the other thing that we don't talk about enough here would be the concern that Ukrainian officials have about President Zelensky's safety. I think that's probably a barrier here that we don't talk a lot about. Certainly we don't hear it from President Zelensky, who puts on a tough face, obviously, and for obvious reasons, Joshua.
That's a good point. That may be something for us to pick up in a future conversation, is just the way that the government has been able to keep functioning with him having such like high-profile visitors and being somewhat mobile. That, I think, is a worthy conversation for another day. Thank you, Cal. That's NBC's Cal Perry with the latest
opposition leaders
from Kyiv.
Yep.
Yes. Yeah. We'll pick that up another night, though, Cal. But thank you very much with the latest from Kyiv. Thank you, Cal. Up next, some big issues on the beaches. They've become a political battleground in Puerto Rico. Every inch of its coastline is currently open to the public, but some of the island's richest residents want to change that. We'll show you just ahead. Stay close. You going to the beach this weekend? In Puerto Rico, all 270 miles of its coastline are open to the public. You can just drop your towel anywhere and enjoy the day. For now. Some Puerto Ricans are fighting wealthy residents and developers who want to privatize these beaches. NBC News Now correspondent Isa Gutierrez has the story.
Hey Joshua, I've been covering the beach protests in Puerto Rico for a few months now, and this past week I spoke to activists at one on the west side of the island that turned into a celebration after a local agency sided in their favor. Here's what I learned.
Hay mucha gente millonaria trayendo, ¿verdad? Para construir. Es una realidad. Están destruyendo la playa.
For many Puerto Ricans, protecting their beaches is protecting their paradise.
Ella tiene 5 añitos. Ella viene conmigo y se trae una bolsa todos los fines de semana a recoger basura. Ella sabe proteger las tortugas. Ella ya sabe de la vida marina.
By Puerto Rican law, all beaches on the island are public.
I grew up at the beach, and we just want to preserve it for future generations and for everybody that wants to come and enjoy our island.
Boricuas like Wilmar Vasquez have been fighting to save their home from investors and construction sites that they say are destroying the natural resources of the island.
This fight that has started in Puerto Rico for the past 20 years, fighting for our free access to public beaches that are of public domain, and also to protect our resources that are supposed to be protected by law.
Vasquez organized dozens of people in Aguadilla this past weekend to demonstrate against a construction site located above a cave called Las Golondrinas.
We've all decided to meet up here and fight for what has been happening here in Aguadilla. Sediments from that construction was polluting the water.
Locals say Aguadilla Pier Corp, the developer behind the construction site, has been building illegally on 3 areas near the cave, saying they've cut down a protected forest and let sediment from their site pollute the water below. But this week, a victory. Puerto Rico's Department of Nature Resources declaring a day before the planned protest that Aguadilla Pier Corp does not have the proper permits or authorization to build and must demolish their structures within 30 days and restore the site to its natural conditions. We reached out to Carlos Roman, an agent with Aguadilla Pier Corp. He did not respond for comment. Activists say what happened in Aguadilla is just one battle in the larger fight to protect Puerto Rico's public coastline.
We have 3 projects right now that are endangering coastlines. We have Bahía de Jobos, where they destroyed a whole mangrove forest.
There are a lot of construction done here in Puerto Rico without permits, and it's usually informal construction. I'm seeing that throughout the whole island.
Pedro Cardona has been working in urban development in Puerto Rico since 1991. He's the former vice president of the Planning Board, the agency responsible for economic planning and land use zoning.
The permitting process here in Puerto Rico is chaotic. There's no accountability, there's no auditing. We're seeing the results of this.
The Office of the Governor did not respond to our request for comment. Booming construction on the island is partly due to a set of tax incentive acts like Act 20, 22, and 60.
What they've done is create a tax haven for foreigners. The promotion that is being made by public officials is that you can do anything that you want.
Many on the island told us the wealth coming into the island is not reaching the local people. Plus, they tell us they're being priced out of their neighborhoods.
It's gentrification at its purest form. We don't see it on the roads. They're not making improvements around. On the contrary, they're destroying the natural resources.
Elena Hernandez, a wealth advisor with Gen Trust and a Puerto Rican herself, says she understands the frustrations, but that the positive impact of investment on the island over the last few years can't be denied.
All those people that are now residents of the island, a lot of them entrepreneurs, business owners, etc., have created and provided, right, a lot of job opportunities.
Cardona says the growth of some of these industries over the last decade is not enough.
People tend to simplify this issue, and they tend to say, well, if you have investment, that's good enough. It's not the case. And if you destroy natural resources, you're going to compromise water access for thousands of people.
Vasquez is hopeful, but says the fight is not over.
So it's very important for the communities and for the people of Puerto Rico to keep this fight, because we've seen that with pressure, the government starts listening and doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Now, one thing that I heard over and over is that the Puerto Rican people by nature are very welcoming. The activists told me that they want to share their paradise as long as it's not being destroyed. Joshua?
Thank you, Isa. That was NBC's Isa Gutierrez reporting. Beaches and developers are in some conflict around the world because they both want the same thing: sand. We'll explain what's going on and meet a group in Louisiana trying to fix that before we go. When you recycle a glass bottle, it often just becomes something else made of glass. But these days, we really need it to become something simpler: sand. We need sand to make everything from skyscrapers to microchips. And believe it or not, the world's running out. So why not just recycle more glass into sand? Well, we met a group working on that in Louisiana, a state that also needs sand to save itself from climate change.
We're using sand at a much faster rate than it can be naturally created.
Those classic images of endless sandy beaches may be a thing of the past. They're not as sandy as they used to be.
And here in South Florida, if we didn't put sand on our beaches from somewhere else, we wouldn't have any beaches.
Professor Stephen Leatherman runs the Laboratory for Coastal Research at Florida International University. Professor Leatherman says this man-made sand shortage is only getting worse.
Take countries like China, they want more sand for construction. They're building buildings and new cities all the time. So where are they getting it from? They don't have the sand in their country for it, so they're buying it from other countries. If I went to Morocco, and a lot of the beaches now are bare. There's no sand, you're down to rock, been scraped away.
On top of that, climate change is making sea levels rise, which washes more sand away. That forces coastal cities to bring in more sand for beach renourishment.
That beaches protect the infrastructure, the buildings, the highways behind them, and so we need wide beaches and dunes for that purpose.
Aren't there huge deserts around the world, though? I mean, how can the world have a shortage of sand?
Yeah, the beach sand is angular. It's not well-rounded, and it's different shapes and stuff. And that sand has been blowing around in the Sahara Desert for tens and hundreds of thousands a year, super round and super smooth. It doesn't attach well to cement to make concrete, so the concrete will fall apart without it. With that kind of sand, you can't use it for construction.
But where will the world get more of that angled sand? One recycling company has an idea to address that.
Like most crazy ideas started over a bottle of wine. We kind of pondered the destiny of that glass bottle, that it was almost certainly doomed to a landfill where it would take about 1 million years to decompose.
Glass Half Full is based in New Orleans. 25-year-old Max Stites is a co-founder.
I think that aha moment kind of came to us when we realized we could take that glass waste and turn it into a usable sand and glass gravel product, all in-house right here in New Orleans.
That complicated process happens in this warehouse.
After we collect it, step one, we dump it out into what are called dump piles. From there, we will come with the tractor, skid steer, front end loader, scoop it up, take that scoop and bring it over to the first series of the processing machinery into a surge meter hopper. That's going to funnel out a bit of glass at once, goes up a conveyor belt into a series of crushers, pulverizers, and then ultimately into a trommel screen that gets out those corks, caps, lids, anything that we don't want in that glass.
Construction and manufacturing are major sand users. But 24-year-old co-founder Francisca Troutman says Glass Half Full is focused on fighting climate change at home on the Gulf Coast.
So every time there's a hurricane coming or a major storm, our city floods. So many parts of our city flood. And it's often people that are most vulnerable to flooding that need sandbags to protect their homes so that the water can stop. And so we're able to provide pre-bagged sandbags ahead of storms, whereas the city often dump sand somewhere and you have to go kind of like dig your own bag. Our main goal since starting was always to be able to combat this coastal erosion crisis that we have in Louisiana, where we're losing a football field's worth of land every 100 minutes.
Troutman says the group tested its recycled sand with the help of Tulane University and a grant from the National Science Foundation. Yet again, the shape of the sand made a big difference.
Because glass sand is able to be coarser and a bit more angular than traditional sand that we use for restoration projects, so it won't erode as quickly. It'll kind of stay in place a bit better than traditional sand, so then plants are able to grow and really stabilize that land that you're restoring.
Louisiana is the erosion hotspot of the United States. Some beaches there are eroding 50 feet a year, like Grand Isle. It's a big issue. Other areas, the average erosion rate is about 2 feet a year.
Right now, Glass Half Full processes about 2 tons of glass an hour. It's working to improve that rate.
We want to take that to 20 tons an hour, so just dramatically expands our ability to process our operational capacity, and gives us the ability to process the entire state's glass and even potentially beyond.
So, does the group plan to work with governments to help save Louisiana's coastlines?
It's complicated. We've had many conversations with different people in different aspects of government, and we've yet to form any formal partnerships or, get any grants or kind of kickback from the government yet, but we're still hopeful that in the future we'll be able to partner in some way.
A statement from the Louisiana governor's office says that it is not aware of Glass Half Full sending any information. The Department of Environmental Quality says it has supported the group's efforts and the state needs more glass recyclers. Preventing erosion is not easy, but perhaps part of the solution is just to think of sand differently, not just as something between our toes, but in our ears and in the sky.
When you go to a beach, realize that beaches are always changing, and many of them are eroding, unfortunately, and it's only going to get worse through time.
Until we meet again, I'm Joshua Johnson. Thank you for making time for us, and enjoy your weekend. Good night.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.